Hi everybody, my name's Fiona May and I am from Women on Transition, and today I'm going to talk to you about why I started Women on Transition and why I do the work that I do. So for a lot of ladies who don't know me, I'm just a woman who went through a unexpected separation and divorce when I was 46. And so the women I love working with are women just like me at that time of my life, because honestly, it was a bit that I had ever been through, and I really would love to, and I do enjoy being able to help other ladies navigate this territory. So first, a lot of the time women ask me why the name for a start. So 8 years ago when I started Women on Transition, it was a name that really appealed to me because I didn't want to be in transition. I didn't want to be stuck in anything. I just knew that I was on transition. I was moving my way through from where I was to where I want to be. And so for me, it was just a symbolic sort of, statement that told me wherever I am in my life right now, it's temporary. I'm not staying here. I've just got to learn how to deal and how to be able to process where I'm at, so then I can move forward into the next stage of my life. So my journey, just so you understand, I became a separated woman at 46 and I got divorced a year later at 47. I pushed for our financial settlement to happen very quickly because I had a very big business worldwide and I had 65, and I knew that if I didn't keep it all together, then I was going to affect so many other people's livelihoods and their ability to be able to come into our workplace and feel safe and secure. So every day I gave myself a time that I could be sad and I could put the music on, reminisce. It was in the morning for half an hour, and then I told myself I need to get on with my day, put my big girl pants on and go to work and deal with everything to deal with, because like I said, I had lots of staff, I had lots of things going on, and I didn't have the luxury of just letting everything go. So mine was an unexpected separation. I never expected it for a minute. My husband and I were really happy. We had a beautiful life. We had everything that we could possibly, imagine, and we would probably be, for most people, the least likely people on earth who would get divorced. We had never even spoken the divorce word in our house, had never heard it. So the way things turned out was, a set of circumstances, I think, and my husband went through a midlife crisis, and he went off, had enough of work, so he retired out of the business, started playing much more golf, and went to Thailand, and he met a bar girl. And home and said, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you." And they're words that I never thought that I would hear, not for a minute. But the reality was that it brought me to my knees. I can't say that any differently to what it was. I was devastated. My kids were devastated, and our friends, our staff, everyone who just found it so unbelievable to, one day be happily married and the next day to your life literally has turned upside down. And I wonder how many of you feel that was your situation. That we were, you knew where you were going, you knew what your future was going to be, you had your plans, your dreams, and not very long down the track you're wondering, what the hell have I just experienced? But I think, I had not been on my own since I was 17. I met my husband at 17, he was 22, and so we were pretty much, first boyfriend, girlfriend, and we both got together. In hindsight, we bonded over our brokenness. We're both hard workers. We worked alongside each other, and you know, hard, and we created an amazing life for ourselves through, started off in farming, then we went into you know, a developing properties, doing renovations, working side by side every day. And then I decided that, you know, we no good furniture shop, so let's start some furniture shops. And then when there was no good furniture around that I wanted or everyone else didn't have, then I started designing. So then my designs got picked up, went worldwide, and we ended up with a worldwide distribution chain of high-end furniture and homewares. So that was that part of our life, and we did all that together. And then, you know, the second stage of my life was as a single woman. So I became separated and divorced at 48, and I didn't know what I was doing. Had no idea how to be a divorced woman. You know, I was very incapable at living my life the way that I knew it, but when everything changed, I really didn't know how I was going to navigate this next stage of my life. So I really just decided that I needed some support. And when I went out there looking for support, I just couldn't find positive, supportive role models of what could be possible for me in my life. I found a lot of groups that were negative, a lot of groups that were man haters, a lot of groups that just wanted to stay stuck and blame, you know, not take any responsibility, or not even have the desire of finding out why and how we got to this place. And I think that that's probably my growth orientated mindset, because I always want to know why and how, and I'm always looking to improve. That drove me on this journey. And so the reason I do the work that I do now is 100% because I just feel there's such a void in the market for midlife women, any women really, but midlife women is what I love and I specialize in. I just want to help them to rebuild their lives, because, you know, I know that so many of these beautiful women out there have been good wives, they've been good mums, they're good sisters, they're good daughters, and suddenly the carpet seems like it gets swept out from underneath you. And a lot of it is not really supportive of allowing people to get back onto their feet. There's so much fear that comes up. You know, for a lot of women, it's financial insecurity. For other people, it's emotional, like they're in so much pain. Sometimes it's so hard to, and to think that, you know, you're going to rebuild your life and be happy again it's just so unreal for so many people. Other people get hit with medical crises or illness or disease, and we all know that stress contributes to that. So, you know, there are different reasons of why people suffer through this process, but for most people you can say it's really a combination of everything. And so the reason I do this work is that I don't want women to suffer. I don't think we deserve to have to, at this time in our life, go through this process with having no end goals in sight and no belief that we're actually going to be able to get through this. So that's what drives me to be able to keep going forward. When I couldn't find positive, inspiring groups, I decided that I wanted to start my own. So first I threw myself into working on myself, getting myself whole and complete, rebuilding my family, and so then I was in a place to be able to start to dream again. Because, you know, when we don't have dreams, we feel hopeless, and when we do have dreams, we get excited. We've got a reason to get out of bed every morning, and I think that that's really important going through this journey, is to have a reason to get out of bed every single morning. So, you know, I made a decision. It was a conscious decision that I was not going to allow my divorce to define me. You know, I just wasn't going to allow it to stop me and to take away all the plans and dreams that I wanted for my future. And I knew that I would be happy again. I didn't know how I was going to make that happen at that stage, but, you know, I just knew that that was on. He can't take that away from me. He can't take my future away. Even though my past and everything I thought we were going to have went away when the day he walked out the door. You know, my kids lost their identity on that day. I lost my husband. We lost our family. We actually even lost our house because I sold our house to pay out him. And so, you know, that was, everything changed through that process. But I knew that it was on me to create the future that I wanted for myself. So I challenged myself to rebuild my life and wanted to have a joyful life. And I enjoyed the process so much, and I saw so much need out there that I really actually get a huge amount out of helping other ladies to do the same. So, you know, I just wanted to be able to give back. Tired, I was successful, I sold my business, and Paul and I met a beautiful man. We went traveling around the world, one-way ticket, and I got to the stage that, what's my life all about? You know, you can go on so many holidays, you can have, you know, so many things, but that's not fulfilling me. What I knew needed to do to fulfill me was to have a purpose. And when I sat down and thought about, you know, what can I do? What can I give? How can I actually contribute to other people's lives? I thought what I need to do is staring me right in the face. You know, there's other women out there whose knees hit the ground when they went through their separation and divorce, and they didn't know how to rebuild. And I wanted to be that wind beneath their wings and give them hope. And that's why I started Women on Transition and why I do the work that I do. So, you know, challenges that I found, and you might have some of these exact challenges, going from a Mrs. to a Ms. It's quite weird, isn't it? They just drop one letter and it changes so much for us. I felt a lot of shame and embarrassment going from being married to, and, you know, becoming a Ms. and defining myself, you know, everywhere that I went as divorced instead of married. I felt a real shame around that. And so that's something that I knew that I needed to work through. To cover my heart hurting, I made my ex wrong. It was very convenient for me and for most women that I hear going through these stages, is to make up a story that justifies where we're at in our life. And even though that story is convenient, it actually became the story that was trapping me. And when I pulled it apart, the story that I was telling was not always 100% accurate. It was my interpretations of events that fitted the way that I wanted the story to be told. And the more that I held on to me, I made my ex wrong. And so in one way, I wanted to punish him. You know, how dare he leave me for a, you know, bar girl? How embarrassing to be left for a bar girl. I wanted people to feel sorry for me. I wanted people to side with me. And, you know, so my story became a concoction of justifying where I was at. And, you know, our stories are so powerful. Our stories will either empower us or they will disempower us. And when I realized that the story I was telling myself of what my potential, what I'd been through and where I was right now in my life, I thought, I don't like that story anymore. You know, I want to get rid of that story, and I want to step up into my power, and I want to create a new story of what's possible for me and my family and my future. And let's create something. Let's not look to how everyone else does it. Let's do it what feels authentic to me and the way that I wanted to live my life, and the choices that I wanted to make. So it was really hard for me to see my ex happy with his new love. Really challenging to be effectively felt like I was traded in. And the more I thought about, you know, being traded in for someone 15 years younger than me, in prettier, slimmer, younger, you know, it made me not feel great about myself. And so then I started to think, you know, that's a really limiting story and a belief system that I have around that. And, you know, he gets to choose to live his life and for him to be out there doing what he wants. And I felt, well, you know, I can either be a victim of those circumstances or I use it as the reason why I have to get healthy, because I don't want to stay stuck. And so that was my driver. He's out there having a good life. Why am I sad? Why am I crying? Why am I, you know, holding myself back and wallowing in have lost? So I just thought, this is not serving you, it's not serving your kids. And so, you know, what do I need to do to make this not my reality? So we also lost a lot of friends over our divorce. You know, it was fairly public. We didn't handle it in an emotionally intelligent way of what we could have. And people got involved, and you know, if I had my time over again, I would have done it very differently. But the truth is, you know, it was the first time I'd done it. It's the last time I've done. Yeah, inexperienced and emotionally, you know, unintelligent in that area of my life. So I definitely made lots of mistakes, and you know, friendships got tested and friendships got lost through that period. I think is really sad. And the only way that I love those people for the role that they played in our lives for while they were in our life. And the fact that they're not our friends now, I think is just, you know, it is what it is. I don't over stress about things that I can't control. People get, and you know, they're not in my life because they're not in my life. I don't need to make up a story about it. So, you know, I think that's a sadness that you reconcile, and but you don't turn on the people who would love you and could love through this process. So, you know, you will get situations that relationships are strained, but if you've got people who you love, don't just put your walls up, cut them off, because, you know, you can end up very lonely and sad through this process if you cut everyone off who you don't see as supporting you. What we will always encourage there is to grow your emotional intelligence so you can have more detailed and confident conversations with people, that you can bridge some of those differences, that you can talk to them about where you were and how to be in that place. And if you want someone in your life, then, you know, I think that it's really important that we become people who can sustain those relationships or rebuild them. One of my biggest sadnesses is that I see so many women estranged from their families and their children. I think for a mum, that's, you know, that's just heartbreaking for that to happen. Sometimes that happens because of alienation from the other partner. Sometimes it's just because the kids don't know how to handle mum because she's so sad. And when kids don't know how to handle mum because she's so sad, and they have emotional intelligence to navigate it themselves, they feel like they can't contribute, they can't fix it, doesn't matter what they do, it's not working. So what people do as humans is they protect themselves, and they tend to step back a little bit, and they tend to put up their own walls. And this is what happens through this process. And I see time and time again a lot of women suffering through their separation and divorces and losing relationships with their kids. That's something that I really love to help ladies navigate. And we do it through a process of actually healing, because when a mum heals, she can heal her whole family. And we have seen this time and time and time and time again. And we set up some rituals for the girls to help them to be able to start establishing communication. But, you know, we've got to grow our own mind, because a lot of people, when they give love, expect it back, and when they don't get it back, they get hurt, and then they get sad or angry and they react. we can't do that when we're trying to establish new relationships or to re-establish old relationships. So we need to be able to be at a place that we feel whole and complete, that we've done our own, and then we can reach out and connect with our kids and re-establish those relationships. So it's really important that a mum heal first so she can heal her family. So, I also buried myself in my work, so I didn't have to feel the pain. And this was another thing that I see, maybe you're doing that as well. Maybe you are burying yourself in your relationship with your kids or your grandchildren, and maybe it's in the church, or maybe it's in your work, or in an area volunteering. Anything you're doing, if it actually becomes a reason so you don't have to do your own processing, then that's not really beneficial to you. A lot of my beautiful ladies that I work with are overgivers, they're people pleasers, and these, while they feel on one way that they're admirable qualities, also can become very toxic to you. And so what I always help ladies to do is recognize what is driving them, why they do the things that they do. Are they overgiving? Are they people pleasing? Are they being a fixer? Are they being too results focused? Or are they driving themselves to be successful? Because underneath all of this, there's always something that's subconsciously driving them, and they don't even know why they're doing the things that they're doing. So, it's really powerful for us to get in contact, with who we are, and for us to some of those layers. These layers have been happening to us since we were little girls. And so I just believe that this is an amazing time of our lives for us to rediscover who we are, to start really loving ourselves so we can prioritize what we want for ourselves in our lives. I think, we're at a wonderful time of our lives to be able to create a life that we are truly happy living. And for many of us, our kids are growing, they're getting off our hands. If they're not already off our hands, we become empty nesters. And, time for you to actually have a look at what you want for yourself. You are not being put on earth just to serve everybody else. You are worthy of being loved. You are worthy of having something beautiful for you. And if that includes a man, that's awesome. If it doesn't, that's okay. So you get to define what your future's going to look like. It's not for anybody else to say. So, I really want you to know that what you can dream and what you want as your future, I 100% believe that it's absolutely possible, but the work has to start with you. It has to start with you getting healthy, you taking control of your life, dealing with all the things in your life that you're not happy with. And then once you've got that under control, then you start doing other things that make your environment, your bigger circle of friends, your influence, your career. There's 8 different areas of our lives, and we've got to look at all of those if we want to have what we call a balanced life. So, I just believe that I didn't want to not have the life that I wanted to live. And I hope that you, wherever you are in your journey, some people are very raw, just going through a separation or even contemplating should they leave. Other people are in the midst of their financial settlements, and we call that the crazy time, because people do and say and act in ways that you never believe that they would, and it can be really disheartening going through that stuff. Or you might be long-term divorced, or certainly gone through divorce. And for some ladies, I talked to a lady today, she's been divorced for 20 odd years, never had another partner, and felt in one way her life had just been existing, not actually getting to live the life that she truly wanted. So I learned to love myself and follow my dreams. And this is what I want for you. I want you to live your life on your own terms. So when I sat down and I said, what do I really want? Like, cut to the chase. What do I really want in my life? And I knew that I wanted to be happy. I generally are a happy, positive inspired. I just like getting out of bed and looking forward to what's possible. And so I knew that's how I wanted to live the rest of my life. I certainly didn't want to be sad. I wanted to rebuild my family. That was a really big one for me. I didn't want to be the family that had kids who continue to suffer, and when people suffer they soothe themselves, and often teenagers soothe themselves with unhealthy substances, hurt, and they don't know how to be able to speak up. They don't know how to have healthy boundaries. They self-sabotage, and they can get themselves into all sorts of trouble. So I knew that I didn't want to allow my divorce to define me, but I also didn't want it to allow it to define and take away their possibility of having the best life that they could have. And I didn't want the fact that our relationship broke down to affect my children's relationship. One of the saddest things that I see is when mums don't heal, and they subconsciously, not always consciously, but they take a dislike to their ex, but not only their ex, sometimes it goes to males in general, and they don't think about how that is affecting their children. And it's hard for kids who have been through a lot of breakdown and trauma and dysfunction in their family, for them to be able to have healthy relationships. So that's something that I was really focused on. And one of the reasons that I really wanted to study family therapy and strategic intervention, and threw myself into studying that, so I understand the process of how we get to be able to navigate our way through that situation. So I wanted my kids to have a healthy relationship with their dad. I went from, at first when I was hurting, not wanting him to have that because he's left us and I wanted to punish him, to realizing that is a very, that's not fair from me and it's not fair for my kids. So, very quickly I encouraged and wanted my kids to have a good relationship with their dad. And, that always is something that's not necessarily easy, but we have to, as mums, I think, act in the best interest of our children. And I knew, so that was really important. My two boys, they were both in their older teens, and the two boys were in their 20s. My daughter was in her 18, 19, and they all had me. I have had it said to me that younger children handle divorce much better than older children, and going through the process and coaching the amount of women that I have, I absolutely believe that to be true. Younger adults and older children, they really can struggle with their parents' divorce. And I think that for us to heal, it gives them the best opportunity for them to be able to speak to us and make sense of it. Very often you see kids, especially girls, really having a hard time with the fact that their dads have left, or that mum and dad are separated, and that there's a new person on the scene. But I can guarantee and assure you that the more the mum heals, the more that it becomes okay for her and normalised, and that she is then living, creating her new life, that she's happy, that she's out there, doing what she wants to do. That makes it easier for the kids, 100%. And then you can have those beautiful conversations with your children about how it's affecting them and how you can help them to be able to get through situations. I wanted to be financially abundant, and I wanted to have my finances secure. And, when you go from 2 to 1, it's hard. I see so many women suffering financially, their settlements and afterwards, and just with the cost of living, housing, everything these days, it's challenging for women to get back on their feet and to be able to rebuild their lives. So I think that it's really important that we strategically look at what we need to do to make that happen, instead of just taking it that, you know, we're going to live in a rented house for the rest of our life. We really try and help our ladies to think about what else can I do? What side hustles can I do? What can I get a higher paying job? Can I earn more money? You know, what do I need to do to get ahead to actually give me the outcome that I want? And questions that we really help people make, because, you know, you can't just keep doing the same thing, staying stuck in a job that's not giving you the income that you need. You've got to think outside that square. And often people, especially women, they don't do it because they don't have enough, that they're smart enough or that they're skilled enough. And you know, when you believe in yourself, you can create amazing things. So that was one thing I really wanted to make sure, was that I rebuilt my finances and I got financially secure again. I didn't want to be limited by being a woman for the rest of my life. For me, I love being in relationships. I love having a partner, and I knew that in my heart of hearts I was going to have another relationship. So that's not the same for everyone. For some people, the last thing that they ever want to consider is having another man in their life, and I totally get that. You know, courses, we don't try and tell you the way that it should be for you. But for me, I really loved, you know, being in a relationship, and I was looking forward to the day that I felt that I was healed enough that I could then start dating. And when I started dating, I learnt a lot about, I learned a lot about other people, but I was very proactive in making sure that the person that I chose and brought into my life was the person that, you know, really ticked all of my non-negotiables. And I met Paul 2 years after I got divorced, and he's been an absolute blessing into my life. I love him to death. He is a beautiful person, and I fell in love with him very slowly, and I fell in love with his soul and who he is and how he treats me. And you know, those things, they unfold over time. I wasn't in a jump in and make quick decisions, and it took me 3 months to actually make the decision that yes, he is the one that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And you know, I feel really confident in that decision. Every day I feel grateful, and I feel, you know, blessed to have such a beautiful partner. And we had to learn as midlife people, because he had been through his divorce, I'd been through my divorce, how we navigate this new chapter of our life, how we don't allow our past to define us, and how we don't get triggered or react from our past situations, how we treat each other respectfully and see each other's soul, and give to each other what we want to at this stage of our life, that we actually really feel valued and a pleasure to actually be in our relationship. So we both work on that every single day, and I think that's a really healthy trait. Checking in with each other, having each other's back, walking alongside each other as teammates, because so much of the information out there about dating and having relationships as midlife people, we have just found it's just not, it doesn't serve you. It's not right. You know, it's so different dating at this age when we were 20 and 30. So, you know, we really, I had to get all that clear for myself, and that's what I love to be able to share with other people as well. I want to keep growing and helping others reach their goals. That's why I do this work that I do. You know, I don't want you to shortchange whatever you've been through. Everyone's got a story. Everyone's been through, and I honestly can tell you some of the things that I hear and see on a daily basis, they'd make you cry. You know, to see people having gone through so much suffering. But the truth is that we need to get ourselves to that stage that we draw that line in the sand and we actually heal from our past, so it doesn't continue to dominate us and to hold us back. And then after we've processed and we've worked through it, we have this amazing new chapter of our life available and open to us. So I want you to think for a minute, what in your heart of hearts would you love for yourself? If there was no limitations, what would you choose? And I want you to write those things down. Just take a few minutes and start writing down. Allow your mind to dream of what you would love to create for yourself in the next 30, 40 years. Because, we are at an amazing time of our lives. We've got, most of us, the opportunity now to put some planning in place, create some new goals, think about what we truly want and what's holding us back. We're footloose, fancy free, amazing women, and we have the ability to learn to speak up, articulate how we're feeling, ask for what we need, bring other people in to help us. Like, we're smart. We've got so much going for us. I've got to use those resources smartly to be able to create the life that we want to live. And if you don't want to do that and you want to stay stuck, well, you can do that, but I don't see that that's going to serve you. Certainly wasn't going to be what I was looking to do with myself. I know that your past does not define you. Your past does not define you. It's just a transitional journey that you've been on, where you were coming from and where you are going to. You got control over. So if you've got to here, then that's just that part of your story. You're on transition and you've got this whole beautiful potential out there that you can create a beautiful new life for yourself. So your dreams create what is possible for you. Every thought is first created in the mind. So first we've got to dream it. And that's why I want you to just take some time and start thinking about what you truly want. And when that little voice comes up and says, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. You can't do that," or you can't, you haven't got enough money, or you haven't got the skills. Just tell that little voice to go and have a sit down and just keep writing all the things that you would love to create for yourself in your future, and they become your plan of what you need to do to be able to bring those into reality. So I encourage you to be brave. I want to encourage you to take action, and I want to encourage you to create the life that you want for yourself. So, that's why I do this work, because I felt lost. I lost my mojo, I lost my confidence, and I didn't want to stay stuck in that. And now that I've got it back, I would love to be, a role model for you. I want to show more and more women, what we do and how the ladies that we work with, how they change their lives, because it is absolutely amazing and beautiful. One mama changes herself and she changes her whole family, and we see this time and time again. So you can be a beautiful role model in your family, and your past does not need to define you. Your dreams are created as a dream, first as a thought in your head, but your dreams create what's possible for you. So I want you to be brave, you to take action, and you to create the life that you want. And if I can help you in that process, I'd absolutely love to. Come to one of our 3-day events, or come to one of our retreats, or join us online. We've got a free Facebook group, and we've got a Getting Love and Life Right membership. So there's lots of there for wherever you're at in your life, and we'd love to be able to add to your life if you'd like us to. That's me, Fiona May, Women on Transition, and why I do this amazing work. See ya.